Hello, this is Paul McGann.
And this is Jake McGann.
And you're listening to
Traveling the Vortex.
Ding dong.
Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex, and he is about to enter the cube that is episode number 181. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
Unfortunately, there are no windows for him to look out of. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
You're not a father. You're a grandpa.
I'm a grandpa.
Technically. I mean,
You're
technically.
Essentially.
Essentially. There you go. That's probably more appropriate.
And happy
You're
Father's
pretty
Day,
much the
too.
father figure in those kids' lives now. So
Pretty much, yeah.
It counts. Happy Father's Day, Sean.
And Mel's, so.
That's sad. Actually, I see her more as a mother figure over you. But
Yeah, that's true.
but all dads do.
She keeps me on the straight and narrow.
Because wife is usually wife and mom in most cases, in significant other and mom as well. So.
Yeah. Did you have a good Father's Day?
I did. My dad and mom and my sister and her daughter, because my nephew is at camp this week, came over and we grilled out. So,
very nice.
Some hot dogs and hamburgers and brats. And all the fixins.
How's Mason feeling?
He's better. Got his tonsils out on Wednesday, and he was a real trooper. But at the last minute, he said, I don't want to do this anymore. Just before he was getting ready to go into pre-op. And I felt so bad, but I walked him to the door, and then they went back, and of course, you can't be back there when they do all the anesthetic and everything. But it only took, check-in probably took us, and pre-op stuff probably took about an hour and a half-ish. And then the surgery itself was only about 20 minutes.
Oh, that's not
and
too
then
bad.
they called me back, and he was just kind of waking up and opened his eyes, and he looked at me, and the first thing he said to me, it melted my heart, was, "Did I do good, Daddy?" Oh, man. Yes, you did great. So, yeah, he was a real champ. He came out of it just fine. He didn't have a lot of pain when he woke up, but when they come out of anesthetic, then a lot of times they have like nauseous and stuff, and he did so well. He was just fine up until just before we were about to leave, and they set him up so that he could get dressed, and it all came up. So, but they went in and said, well, that may happen some more, and it did on the way home in the truck. But luckily they sent the
baggie
tray. No, those little trays, that
The
they have.
kidney-shaped ones.
Yes, yeah, those. And
Why are they kidney-shaped?
They sent some of those with.
I assume because it can feel
it kind of
you
feels
sit up
really
against
down.
like that.
You know what? But if I'm gonna, with him, it was all right because he didn't have anything in his stomach since like the night before. If I'm gonna vomit, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think I'll fill a couple of those trays.
That's the thing, is they send those with you at post-surgery where you're not supposed to have eaten beforehand.
Right.
And I got one of those with my teeth, and it was mostly to catch the blood from my wisdom teeth. So it's more just to catch in case.
It's a lovely converation we're having.
Yeah, well, I'm sure our listeners really love this. But anyway.
But like you said, he didn't have anything in his stomach, so it's not going to be a big deal.
So not a lot of
so that's
stuff
the
came
idea
up.
of it.
A lot of water and his medicine, unfortunately, the first dose of his painkillers. So, but we went right home. We actually had to go to Walgreens first and get his prescription, which was kind of painful because he just wanted to go. He wasn't in pain after. He was just so tired because number one,
he's not used to that kind of.
Yeah,
sort of
I mean, I
drugs.
don't think he went to sleep very early that night. I mean, we put him down regular time so that he was, ready. But then we had to be there at 7:45 Wednesday morning, so he had to be up, at about 7:00, which for him is not abnormal. And then, but the anesthetic really made him groggy and tired, and he just wanted to go home and sleep, or he would just want to go lay down. He didn't necessarily even sleep when he got home. But it was funny because I told him, I said, before the surgery, he's been wanting. I talked a little bit about I was going to buy him that video game Comic Jumper, and it's on Xbox, so it's downloadable. So I know I was ready to go. So after we were getting ready to go home, I said, "So what were you going to do when you get home?" He goes, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, you want to play that game, that video game?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to do that." And then he sat there for a few minutes, and his eyes closed, and he opened it back up. He says, "I don't think I'm going to do anything when I get home." I said, "That's all right. We can do it later." He says, "Yeah, maybe we'll download it tomorrow." I said, "Okay, no problem." Well, at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when the little guy's finally up and awake, he says, can you download that game for me? No. I said, well, you said I had to do it tomorrow, so so I downloaded it. Got it for him. So he's doing good. He's going to have pain for a few weeks, and he's on meds, but he's so pent up now. He's got all this energy, and he's ready to go.
Oh, well, yeah.
We can't let him, get up and run around and do the things that he wants to do. So we're at that frustrating point now where he just wants to be up doing stuff. And it was frustrating because, for days we've all been eating real food and he has to eat soft food.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of mac and cheese. And I did go get him ice cream the first day, and he kept that down. And he's had ice cream 2 or 3 times since. So he's really milking the ice cream.
Well, as you do.
But he wants to eat chicken nuggets so bad. So bad. We have to keep telling him no. So hopefully by the end of this week he'll be able to
blend them.
chicken nuggets.
See, I think at that age I would have just lived off of SpaghettiOs.
See, he doesn't like spaghetti. He doesn't like SpaghettiOs. He's a real picky kid, so that makes it even worse. Yeah. There's quite an extensive amount of soft foods on the soft food diet that they gave us. But of those, the only things you like are mac and cheese, applesauce, yogurt, ice cream. And then so we start over again. Mac and cheese.
What about Alfredo?
He doesn't like Alfredo.
He doesn't like Alfredo?
No, he doesn't. He's real.
Most of the Italians
chicken nuggets.
Off the
Chicken nuggets. That's the thing he eats.
mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes. He has eaten mashed potatoes. I forgot about that.
See, when I was that age, I wouldn't have eaten mashed potatoes.
See, but he doesn't like gravy on him. He just wants plain mashed potatoes,
fine.
No butter, no gravy, no nothing.
Does he like ranch?
He does. He loves ranch.
Put ranch on the mashed potatoes and see what happens.
That's not a bad idea. I didn't think of that. He absolutely loves ranch.
I do that every now and then. Instead of if you do a baked potato instead of sour cream, put ranch dressing on it.
Oh, that
it
would
gives
be
it
good.
I put it on mashed potatoes sometimes just because, okay. We have some. All right, I'll use it.
So, but we've got another week of limited activity for Mason, so we'll see how that goes. Speaking of which, I'll have to go home here in a few hours and give him another dose of medicine. That's another thing that's been a challenge for us is we have to schedule, because if we get him, he's on Lortab and he has to take ibuprofen in between, so we alternate between the two. And if he gets off of that for a long string of time, then he starts feeling that pain and it bothers him. And so right now we're on the schedule where one of us luckily, I'm usually up late, Holly gets up early, so there's only that one mid-morning one that, mid-late or mid-early morning that we've been kind of switching off who gets it. So I'm going to be up later tonight, so I figured I'd get this time. And he doesn't like the medicine either. Well, and the other thing is, I told you he had strep, the last week before and they said it was fine as long as he was on antibiotics, but he has to finish the antibiotics, so he's on those until tomorrow. So, and that one's done. Fortunately, we won't have to worry about that one. But that's just normal three doses a day at regular times. So we remember that one pretty easy. But
did you do anything else fun? Well, it sounded like it was a lot of work. Not well, that's a lot of downtime.
It was because 3 of these days were vacation, and I took, and Friday was mostly devoted to him. But once he,
you mean Wednesday?
For Wednesday, once he started feeling better, Thursday and Friday were kind of mine. So I did a lot of projects around the house that needed to be done, and got those cut up. So that was kind of refreshing. The other thing I've been doing, I guess this is what I've been doing this week. The other thing I've been doing is I've been on a bit of a big finish bender this week. I told you guys weeks ago when I went through the Dalek, it might have even been around the end of last year when I was first blogging. I did Dalek's Master Plan, where I listened to Mission to the Unknown and then went through Dalek's Master Plan. And I've always had sort of this fascination with Sarah Kingdom. And I was looking through some of the big finish that I have, and I have a lot of I think I have all the Companion Chronicles, but I hadn't listened to any of them yet. And I saw that there were some Sarah Kingdom ones, and I thought, how? Because, spoilers, she dies at the end of Dalek's Master Plan. So I thought, and you guys know that much, but I'm not going to spoil how they bring her back, but it's really, really cleverly done. So I think there's one in Series 2, one in Series 3, and one in Series 4. And it's actually a Sarah Kingdom trilogy. I mean, if you listen to them together, it works as a 3-part trilogy. It's so wonderfully done. Companion Chronicles Series 2, Companion Chronicles Series 3. And those are doctorless stories.
Right.
Although the doctor is in the stories, because I haven't listened to any of the other
Companion. From the companion's perspective.
Right, but that's what it is. And in fact, in this one, it's so cleverly done that I probably would not enjoy the other Companion Chronicles enough, because this one is done in a storytelling way that is really, really works into the plot of the story. And it's her and another actor, and I can't remember the actor's name. I think his last name's McGregor.
Ewan?
No, but it's something similar to that, because I think it's like Ian McGregor or something like that. Yeah, so but it's not Ewan. It's not the same guy.
He's like not in Star Wars.
Anyway, so I don't want to give away the plot because it's geniusly done, and the way that they bring her back is fantastic. So after I was done with those three, I noticed that I had the 5 Doctors, which was a special subscription bonus that was sent out 2 years ago, I think it was. And so I listened to the 5 Companions, which features Ian. This is a regular audio play. This isn't a storytelling, because 5th Doctor's in that as well. Yeah, but it's Ian, Stephen Taylor, Polly, Sarah Kingdom, and Nyssa. And the interesting catch about this, the interesting catch of this thing is, it takes place during the 5 Doctors. And what happened was, these 5 companions got time scooped, but they got dropped off into like kind of an alternate dimension within the help me out, Dead Zone.
Yeah, Dead Zone.
Death Zone.
Yeah.
And so they got separated from the rest of the group, and that's where actually the Sontarans were also picked up, and the Daleks. We only got the 1 Dalek in the 5 Doctors. But a regiment of Doctors, the rest of the ones that he was with, also got trapped in this little alternate dimension within the Death Zone. And what happens is, the 5th Doctor, as he's transmatting from, after he finds the Harper Rassilon, plays the story, goes and finds the transmat, and he's transmatting down to, or into the Death Zone, he actually gets transmatted into that area first. So that all takes place in the time that he leaves Gallifrey and arrives in the tower in the Death Zone. This piece happens in there where he encounters them, and they have a little... Now, the story's real minimal, but it's so much fan wank and so much fun that you really don't care what's going on.
That's the 5 Doctors.
Dan Starkey is the voice of all of the Sontarans, and of course Nicholas Briggs does the Daleks. And it's a treat. And there was this one moment, I'm going to ruin this part for you, but it was wonderful when the 5th Doctor, they kind of all get separated, and Steve and Sarah go off together, which was cool because it was kind of a reunion for them because they were in. And the nice thing about it is, he asks Sarah, "How are you here?" And she says, "It's a long story." Well, we know the long story because if you listen to the Companion Chronicles, you know why. But so they get separated. Ian and Nyssa go off together, and the 5th Doctor and Polly end up getting separated. And as they're doing their thing, what they have to be doing, part of this plan that they've devised in order to get out of here and thwart the Daleks and the Sontarans, they're really feeling quite helpless. And she says, "Well, I guess if they're, I'd offer to make you tea, but I don't, there's no way to do it here." And he makes some comment about a beverage dispenser that is off. That he says, we could do that, but I wouldn't drink the tea that come out of there. And then she really kind of makes this comment about, that was really all I was good for, which is wonderful. And he says, I never really told you when back then, and I wish I had, but you really were. And he points out the fact that she's the one that kind of faces down the cyber leader, and he's kind of reinforces the idea that she really was more helpful than it was perceived. That she did a lot of things that were, and he always meant to tell her that she was more important than she probably felt that she was. It was such a nice little moment to kind of wrap that around. But when she said that I could make tea, I thought, that's what we've always said. That she kind of gets relegated, and I think that's what's the thing is that a lot of people feel that way.
Fan convention.
But the Doctor really kind of reassures her that you were more important than you think you were.
Well,
so
that's
and only the 5th Doctor could come back and
that was
fix
the
that.
neat thing about it. And of course, Ian is quite surprised. Stephen Taylor's quite surprised that this is the Doctor. You look so young. Well, and they're their age now, so they're older. They're all older, and they're like, well, you seem to have gotten younger. And so he has to kind of, in a roundabout way, explain that, well,
regeneration.
I changed. So that was kind of neat. And this is the only one that recognized him because he was still in his Fifth Doctor form. And Polly knew about regeneration because she was there during the regeneration instant. Sarah knows about regeneration, but through something else. So, it's wonderful. So when we get a chance to, and I don't want to go too much into it, but when we get a chance to review it, I'm really looking forward to see what your guys' opinion is on it.
Sounds like it's really good.
So you have 4.
I've always heard really
Big
good
Finish
things
audios. Now they're all 1 hour long, so they're manageable. But I'm really excited to listen to the Sarah Kingdoms again because they were that good. They were that good. So maybe we'll do a Sarah Kingdom archives and we can string out Dalek's Master Plan for like 8-9 weeks. Since it's like 10
as long
parts,
as it is.
Well, and if we do it, I think we need
How
to
much of it exists?
only 2.
Not going to be a Friday night.
Well, no, you're right. It won't be. And the way that I did it, I watched the Ian Levine animation of Mission to the Unknown, which is kind of the prologue, and then I watched the animation for Feast of Stephen, because that doesn't exist. I think the audio exists on that one, but that'll never exist because that was one that never was sent overseas. There's 2 that exist.
There's actual animation for it?
Yeah, somebody. No, it wasn't even Ian. Ian did the Mission to the Unknown, which I think he shopped around to help me out, to entertain, and in hopes that they would do it. And it was still early on, and it was one of his first attempts, and it's done well. It's done as well as the Shada stuff that I've seen. Maybe a little less quality, but it's done almost as good as some of the animations they've done now. So I was really impressed with that. The Feast of Stephen animation that I watched was actually fan-made, and they must have used some off-the-shelf animation software, and it's really rough, but it gives you a good visualization, and that's why I watched it. The rest of that I did in the linking narration audios that I tend to get for some of those when I decide to do those instead of doing the recons. But they do, I think Loose Cannons did do a reconstruction, so if that's more up your alley, you can do it that way. But that's what I did. And I just did them in order as they went and listened to the audios, and then when I got to an episode that exists, and of course you get Brett Vian, so you get Nick Courtney's first, or not Nick Courtney, Nick, help me out here, the Brig.
Nicholas Courtney.
Oh, Nicholas Courtney. I was Nicholas Briggs, so I was getting confused with Nicholas Courtney. So you get his first appearance, and I think one of the episodes that does exist has him, so you get to see him portraying Brett Vian in it. Yeah, so when we do that, that'll be a lot of fun, and maybe we can throw those companion chronicles. Maybe we can do hers as that, and maybe a part 2 as the. Anyway, I don't know. We'll discuss that offline, but I'm excited to do some Sarah Kingdom. I've also found through a source some of the old Dalek annuals, and there's some Sarah Kingdom stories in there, so I'm going to take a read through those as well.
Cool, that's cool.
So I don't know why this obsession with Sarah Kingdom is, but I've just been.
From what I hear, she's
I've been
quite
intrigued.
awesome.
Yeah, I've been because she's the what was it, space security service is what she worked for, which was what was kind of the police of the solar system, and then they were under Mavic Chen, who ends up being the bad guy, and but he's the guardian of the solar system, which is the third companion chronicles called, and I thought that was quite interesting how they worked Mavic Chen into that as well. So
it seems like we need to make sure we watch Dalek's Master Plan in its completion before getting to the
I think you should. The other thing that I thought was cool about the Sarah Kingdom companion chronicles was they're worked in such a way that she's telling a story about. I'll give you this much. She's telling the story about some of the adventures she had with the Doctor and Stephen, and they must have happened because in Dalek's Master Plan they bounce around to a lot of different places. Feast of Stephen takes place in London and in Hollywood. They end up landing right in the middle of a cricket game at one point. They land in ancient Egypt at one point. So these stories must have happened at some point where they were bouncing from here to here when they were running from the Daleks, and they had this precious metal. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head now, but this
Unobtainium.
Yeah, something to that matter. But something that they were trying to keep away from Mavic Chen, because if he gets it, then he can go through with his plan, the Daleks' master plan with the Daleks. So at some point, those stories she tells happens in that era, which lends to the fact of why she's eventually able to come back. So
Cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's really well done, guys. I'm really excited for you guys to listen to those. We'll be down the road, but eventually we'll jump into those. I think that's about it. We didn't do anything. My niece spent the night on Friday, so the kids kind of were out of my hair most of that night, so I was able to join in for Friday Night Who, which was fun rewatching Enemy of the World again for the first 3 episodes, and we'll do the rest of that next week, and obviously review that. So,
Yeah.
Poor Keith.
are you guys enjoying
I ended
Enemy?
up watching it on my
yes.
own.
You didn't get to go. I forgot.
I didn't get to join in.
Did you want to talk about what you did this week? Since I was off for 3 days?
Well, before you went off, because you were late, you didn't get to join in for Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
Which I still haven't gone back to watch. I need to.
What Battle suffers from is not as good of a plot. It's more of a battle than a plot-driven film. So
It's Matrix Revolutions.
yeah, pretty much. It's this fairly impressive battle sequence, I think, for being a Planet of the Apes film. And Brittany seemed to enjoy it. She went in with very much oh man, I've heard bad things about this one. I hope to not be disappointed, and I don't think she was.
But it didn't help that we've
We've always been kind of mad.
always been kind of down on it.
And it's still there's some great moments with Caesar in this movie, and those are the best parts of the movie. And then Aldo and then Culp just drag the movie down.
How many people were able to join in?
It was me, Brittany, and Michelle. Unfortunately, only the 3 of us, but that's okay. We still had fun.
Or just fortunately?
Fortunately, just the 3 of us. A nice intimate affair.
Once you hit the pinnacle of escape, it's really hard to get your energy up for anything else.
And then other than working for you, I've been working my way through Tomb Raider, 92% now.
Wow.
I'm like at the build up to the final boss, whatever that's going to be. We went and saw How to Train Your Dragon 2 last night.
How is it?
It was really good. I really liked it.
As good as the first one?
As good, yes. Absolutely. It kind of does and walking out of it, I said, that kind of felt like Empire Strikes Back. Like built on everything and was slightly darker. And then I got online later and looked at some of the trivia for the film. And when they offered him, the director, the sequel, he said, okay, if I can do it a trilogy and draw inspiration from my childhood movies, being Empire Strikes Back. So it's very much in that vein, and there's a lot of great character growth. I'm just constantly amazed by the animation in it and the designs they come up with. It's such a cool universe that now I really want to go and watch the TV show that they did. And they're going to be adding a 3rd season, I think, on Netflix. So
there's a How I Met Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon. It's called DreamWorks. How I Met Your Dragon.
I heard it ends terribly.
It was all good until that 8th season.
It's called DreamWorks Dragons, Riders of the Burke. It's been on Cartoon Network like the last 2 seasons. So,
and the movies are based on a very strong young adult
there's like
series, right?
Like 10 children's books in that series.
So this one actually jumps forward 5 years, which is a nice kind of a good pacing to it, and has a lot of great character development in it. And Kit Harington is in it, Mr. Jon Snow, and does a good job.
David Tennant come back?
I didn't hear him, but I think was he in the movie?
He was in the first one, but I'll be honest, I don't remember who he was. I think he might have even been one of the dragons.
I know he also is in 2 episodes of the series.
Okay.
So I didn't see his name in the credits. But everyone else came back, and then they added Cate Blanchett to it, too. So, quite the good cast. And the one dude from Tempest and Blood Diamond.
Dijon.
Yeah, I don't know how to say his name.
I believe it's Dijon Honsu, but I don't take that with a grain of salt.
I saw his name on the screen. I was like,
we take
that?
everything you say with a grain of salt.
It's like Kumri. Could be wrong.
Someone will probably write in and let us know.
And then, before I get to what we did today for Father's Day, my mom has been watching Doctor Who, as I've talked about. She's up to season 6. I was texting with her when she was watching A Good Man Goes to War. I tried not to mess with her too much or talk to her too much so she could focus on it. She ended it with all in caps, OMG apostrophe. What? 4 question marks. What? 4 question marks. Best response to the end of that episode I've ever seen. I think that won her over to Matt Smith's run as on the Doctor.
Oh, good.
At least the era. Now she's like...
She's no longer a Tennant fangirl?
Well, she still likes Tennant. She didn't really say one way or another if she liked Smith more than Tennant, but I think she was very iffy on this whole arc and story until that episode. And that just wowed her. Then today we went to Lawrence with my dad and wandered around a little bit. Ended up going to AT&T, and he's now in the digital age with a smartphone.
Ooh.
This from the man who made sure that Sprint turned off the text messaging so he wouldn't get them on his phone. Now he has a smartphone.
So does he get texts now, or
unlimited texts, unlimited talk? So,
what's your dad's number? I'm going to send him something.
He'll be getting up.
Heard you got a smartphone.
He'll be getting up in a few hours. So,
OMG. IAT. It's about time. I don't know. I think
I'm
all
sure.
the kids are using it. I don't know.
I'd have gone with that.
I think it was Carol was one more than he was. So,
are they sharing?
No,
they each got
they each got their own,
okay.
but they're sharing like a gig data.
Right.
So,
right.
He picked us up and we went off, and then he dropped us off, and we then headed over to Walgreens, and we're going to go over to Sarah's parents. And on the way to Walgreens, I already get a phone call asking a question about something.
How do I do this?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to get a lot of questions. So that'll be fun to see what happens.
Just bring it by, Dad.
I have a feeling I'll be seeing him a lot in the next couple of weeks, explaining how things work.
My dad hinted today that might be a visit. I asked him when I was talking with him, I was like, "That's how's your Father's Day going? What are you doing?" He says, "I'm trying to record music." It's like, "Oh, trying, huh?" He goes, "Yeah." From what? "Oh, onto my computer."
From what?
Long pause. "Okay, Dad, I'll come over and help with that at some point." "Okay, good."
What's he recording from?
I have no idea.
Some of his old, like...
He might
records
actually have one of those
Turntables.
USB turntable. I don't know. He went out and got himself a Mac, and he's all happy with it and doesn't understand all of it. So.
My dad went through and started his record collection, and after he spent a full day, he realized that it was probably worth his time to go find the stuff on iTunes and download everything that he needed, which he did until he got to the albums that either out of print or he didn't have. And then he went back and started recording those off onto USB. So tell your dad to go through his collection first, decide what he can't get digitally. Because my dad said, I think he spent probably $50-$60 on downloads just to replace his albums. But he said it was so worth it because he said, well, he enjoyed sitting there listening to the albums as he was, it was just such a time.
Yeah.
Well, and the
investment.
audio volume isn't as good as the
right, and there's
digital
some of them
version.
are scratchy and they have the pops. Although my dad sort of likes that. My dad likes the nostalgia.
There is that
but
aspect
he
to it.
decided it was worth buying the stuff.
I used to have one, and a friend of mine lent me a record, and I ripped it, and the level is so much quieter than anything else. I had to boost my volume so much when playing the album on my device.
Did you know nostalgia literally means painful memory?
Yeah, I heard
Pain
that.
of memory.
I actually heard that the other day. My dad actually.
I think he'll figure it out.
My dad actually.
Where he heard it from?
Was it from you?
No.
Oh. What did I
No,
hear?
he won't figure it out.
Oh, it was in one of our
There you go.
You're right. It was in Memory Lane. No, my dad actually he ripped one of his albums
In
and then he went and downloaded the MP3s from iTunes, and then he realized he had it on CD.
All together now.
And I said, well, you probably didn't need to buy that. And he said, well, I wanted a digital copy of it anyway. And I said, you really didn't need to buy that. And so then I showed him how to rip CDs. And it was a whole new box that he got open. So he went through and he ripped all his CDs. And I said, well, but I don't want to pirate these. And I said, as long as you own the CD and continue to own the CD, it's allowed to rip them as long as you own the copy.
This is yours.
Well, as long as you don't sell it to somebody.
That's why iTunes lets you do it so easily.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of glad my dad's not big into music, so I don't have to worry about dealing with that at all.
well, that's the funny thing is when I was a kid, my dad was huge. He bought his album collection is just
See, my
huge.
mom was always the big music person.
And
My dad was
he
the-
loved music, and he listened to the radio, and he loves country music, and all of this. But he went through this period of, I think it was finally after the turntable went out, that he just didn't listen to music much. We'd buy him CDs for Christmas, and he'd listen to those, but it wasn't until he finally decided he was going to put his albums on that he got back into music. And of course now he's back into music, and of course now that he can do it all digitally, he'll go back and find stuff that he never got and find
Well, it makes
those
it
on
easier
iTunes
so
and
much
buy
now.
them. And, so plus they're going to Tennessee in the fall, and they're going to stop through, I think, Nashville and go to the Grand Ole Opry. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it's like one of his bucket list things.
That's pretty neat.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, and then there was also hockey on Friday. Double overtime.
Hockey.
Supposed to get over at
Glad
10
you got to deal with
o'clock.
that pain a little bit.
We did our ABC show. Then we sat there and waited.
How late did it go?
We went on after 11:45.
Oh, that's the worst so far.
I left at 12:30.
Double overtime. Yeah, they went into
double overtime and the trophy ceremony after that.
Oh, yeah, because it was the final game.
So it was the end of it.
Would end up being the final game.
We had some nice fun doing charades, though. So me and Robert were giving Alex and Christina and Jared and Matt hints. So we would take turns, and whoever would get it. There were some pretty funny ones. We were laughing pretty hard. So that at least made the time go by quicker once we started doing that.
Had you watched Enemy of the World at all?
Huh. I booted it up when I got home.
When you got home, you watched the
Yeah,
first
I
three, or
watched,
did you
I
watch
watched
the
those
whole?
three. I was tempted to go
Oh,
on.
man.
It's a tough
That's a tough one to stop it. Yeah.
And, yeah, good. I can't wait to see more. I might finish it before we get to Friday.
I think it's somebody might have said this on Friday. It's one of those ones that's just, nobody knew how good it was until it was discovered.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about it, but it was one of those underrated lost episodes that, hey, we got Web of Fear and Enemy of the World? And then everybody watched Enemy of the World, and they're like, this is great.
And part of what's so great about it is Patrick Troughton. His acting in it is so phenomenal.
Well, I don't imagine it would come through in a recon as well. Just
No,
the audio. It just visually, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're reviewing that.
That's next week.
What else did you do, Sean?
What did I do this week? We joined in for Friday Night Who. We did not do Blind into the AIDS. It's on the list, but we haven't gotten to it yet.
1 month. Less than a month now.
Less than a month, but we only have the 2 to go. So
Yeah. You're not going to do 3?
what, that Tim Burton one? No.
I told
I have
Kyle
my
that he's
comments
on his
card.
own on that one.
I have
I'll
my
tweet
comment
along
card.
with him.
I don't
He wants
need
to do that one night.
Actually, I probably will. Considering that when we went through all the Bond movies, we went and did Casino Royale, and we did the original, not the new one. And we did Never Say Never Again. We did all the unofficial stuff. So, yeah, I'll probably go ahead and
It's there are big story issues, but if you can kind of turn your mind off, I just sit there and revel at the makeup really more than anything else.
It's such a phenomenal looking film.
Yeah.
But then I get frustrated because it's like, why wasn't this better? Because this
It should have
looks
been
so
better.
good. What did we do today? We got up and we got a new bed.
Did you work yesterday, by the way?
I did work yesterday.
What time were you at work?
Until 6.
And then you had the day off.
lunch
Why'd
or
you get
something.
I
today
must have been at
off?
lunch. I
The
think
schedule
Matt.
weird?
I think Matt just decided that Father's Day that I should have a day off. I'm not complaining. I'm off tomorrow too, so I have a weekend for the first time in forever. A weekend that I didn't request.
You mean 2
so-
consecutive days?
Well, 2 consecutive days that I didn't request. I won't know what to do with myself. But
Well, I guess I won't come in tomorrow and get that poster.
it's in the back. What was I saying? Oh, we got a new bed. That's kind of been the big thing.
I saw your Facebook post.
We our bed sucks. It's horrible. It's just falling apart, and so we went and started bed shopping back in February, and we're kind of explaining the situation to the guy. He says, "Did you buy it here?" We said, "Yeah." He says, "It's a Simmons." We said, "Yeah." He says, "How long ago?" I said, "I don't know, about 8 years." He goes, "That's under warranty. You should just file a claim for it." And we went, "Oh, really?" So we went home and looked up the thing, and they had us. It's like, well, we need pictures of the bed. Apparently, that's how they do this: is they determine whether or not it's thing.
Well,
It's like,
you need proof of some sort, I
okay,
guess.
so what I need to do? He says, well, you got to lay like a broomstick across the mattress this way, And he says, we want you to take a yardstick and stick it down in the indention and take a picture of that so that we can see how big the divot is. And apparently the normal, warrantable thing is, about an inch. If you have an inch of divot, they consider that to be, wow, you must have a defective bed. Our bed has a 3-inch hole in the middle where everything just, and the sides are all broken down. And we took pictures of all that, and they were like, wow, okay, yeah, here's your voucher. So we got this voucher we went down Wednesday. This was our date night. We went bed shopping. And we could take the voucher. We wound up going, it's like, okay, well, you can either have this, which is the recommended replacement bed, or you can put the $600 and some odd toward a new mattress. And we went, okay. So what's the replacement? Well, we don't have it on the floor anymore. And I'm like, nah, I don't want that one then. Right off the bat. It's like, if I can't lay on it right now, I'm not interested.
Right.
Because I don't get a new warranty on the new bed. I get to ride out the 2 years that are left on my old warranty, and that's it. And there's no exchanges or anything.
Towards it, you get the new warranty?
No.
Even if you...
Because you're using that warranty on that. Now, if I just walked in off the street and bought a new bed, I get a new one. But because of the way it's changing out, I don't get a new one. I don't get it. And I don't even get the... when you go to Nebraska Furniture Mart, you can buy just about anything and take it home and try it out. And they go, this isn't working. I don't get that option on this either. Mm. So I laid on a lot of beds. And I asked the guy, I was like, do you get weird... I mean, is it strange for you to have conversations with people who are lying down while you're standing up? Because that seems like it's a really weird thing. He goes, no. Just get used to it, apparently. So we tried a couple different ones, and then we found one that we really liked. It's much firmer than what I would have thought, because the last one we had was a pillow top, and we were just really overjoyed to get that one, and it sucked. So, it was nice at first. But so we got everything switched out, and then they said, well, we've actually got a delivery Friday morning. And we were like, oh, yes. So, of course, I didn't sleep at all Thursday. Because it's been hot, and I'm dragging my feet on turning the air on. I just haven't brought myself to do it yet, and it's sticky, and then you get in that lumpy bed with the big sponge, and it's damp, and it's just like, and my mind wouldn't disengage. So I didn't sleep at all Thursday. I showed up to work Friday as just zombified. It was a mess. And then stayed up late for Friday night, and then the bed was there. And it's set up, and it's all ready, and I climbed into it. It's like, this is going to be great. But I have to get up and work first thing in the morning, so I got all of 4 hours on the new bed. And I don't think my body knows how to sleep on it. Like you were saying, that you were sleeping too comfortably. My body's still like, no, this isn't right. So I'm still...
This isn't my bed?
I'm still not quite acclimated yet. I'm sure I'll get there. And then I thought, well, Saturday, I told Mel, I was like, we're not doing anything. We're going to get up, and I'll get home from work. We've got Billy's birthday party. And then Saturday night, we're sleeping on the bed. And I'm not getting up Sunday. Tell everybody, because the brothers were going, well, we're going to go visit Dad's grave, right? And she's like, yeah. And I said, we're not getting up till after 10. Tell them. Because for some reason, your brothers seem to think getting up in the morning and text me means 6 a.m. The phone starts ringing. So tell everybody, we're not doing this. So we had Billy's birthday party Saturday night, because he turned 16 this week, and had everybody over and had ice cream cake and presents and stuff. And then Billy wanted to spend some time playing with her. And she was like, okay, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, I want you to try Civilization. He's been on this big Civilization kick, Sid Meier's Civilization, because it was a free games with gold. I was like, okay. Well, he and I played, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and he just had a blast, because we can system link, because I have it on my Xbox downstairs, and he has it on the one upstairs, and so we could do that. And so he wanted Mel to do that. And she's like, well, I'm willing to try it. And so I was like, well, I'll kind of coach you through it, and I'll listen to an audio adventure, and then pop on and kind of see how you're doing. So I was listening to one of the audios while she was over doing this, and every now and then I'd take the headphone off and pause it and answer a couple of questions. Or for some reason, she's still having difficulty with the units. It's like, I don't understand why. She goes, they just don't go the way they're supposed to. It's like right stick, look, left stick, move. It's just like Halo. You do fine in Halo, for whatever reason. It's like, okay, do this. Over here, it's like, why are you sending your guys off into the ocean? I don't know. They don't want to. So she's playing this game. Billy gave up. I'd set it all up for this match for 2 hours. I thought, well, we'll kind of slowly introduce it for her, and we'll have a 2-hour time limit, and then if she doesn't like it, she won't have to play beyond that. Billy gave up and went to bed. He was like, I'm done. Do you want to play for me? Okay. So I jumped on upstairs and started playing, and we were doing a team environment where it was us versus everybody else. And the Russians kept screwing with us, and the French kept screwing with us, and the Indians kept screwing with us, and I was like, Mel, build catapults. So we went to town, and we just obliterated everybody. She got her first domination victory, knocked out the enemy. And she was a little angry because she had a boat and all these cannons and, tanks, and she had all the advanced stuff. I'm still fighting with guys with bows and arrows and stuff, and she had all the technology and did all this stuff. And she had settlers on the boat because she was going to found a new city. And then she took Paris, and that was the end. That was the last capital, and the game credits rolled, and she was angry. She was like, "What do you mean it's over?" I was like, "You won. There's no more. you accomplished the goals of the game. You won. You do that." Well, that sucks. And she got really, really angry over the fact that she couldn't keep going. So I was like, "Well, did you enjoy it?" She goes, "Yeah, I really did. I really got into that. I really enjoyed it." And then we looked at the clock. It was 4 a.m. The 2-hour time limit apparently had not. The game was like, "Nah, you don't need to worry about that." So we went to bed really late Saturday night. And so I still don't quite know how to sleep on my bed. Because even sleeping in was not the glorious, what I wanted out of it. And then today, for Father's Day, we just kind of got up and goofed off a little bit, and we went and visited her dad's grave, and took him some orange slices, because that was his thing. Peeps and orange slices. I don't know.
That's cool.
The candied ones.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
And then we went to the cheap theater and saw Nonstop.
How was it?
Surprisingly
What is
good.
Nonstop?
It's Liam Neeson.
Taken on the plane.
Right, in the plane.
Yeah, Taken 2.5. Liam Neeson's an air marshal, and there's an
Snakes on a
attempt
plane without snakes.
no snakes. No. There's an attempt at hijacking kind of thing, but it's all done over text, and it's got some very cool Sherlock style floating text graphics as he's back and forth, which really, because I wondered how are you going to make that interesting? I'll go see anything Liam Neeson's in, but sure, why not? So we went to Cheap and saw that, and really had a good time, and it was a surprising whodunit that I didn't see I didn't see whodunit until they got to the end, and I kind of...
Was it the butler?
It was not the butler. I kind of pride myself, not intentionally, but a lot of times I'll go into a thriller and be vaguely disappointed because I'll have it figured out.
Right.
That's why I stopped watching CSI, because it was like, and, there's no fun in it for me.
Right,
and this one kind of kept me guessing. They pulled a... not since the original Scream have I kind of really felt like, man, I suspected everybody in the town by the time that one was over with. Henry Winkler's the bad guy. I know it's him. And so this one kind of gave you the same setup where it's like, well, maybe it's this guy. No, they're pushing too hard on him. I think it's this guy, and, going on. And so it was a very, very good film. We enjoyed it a lot. I came home, had a quiet night at home, and she played some Fable. I worked on a script that I'm not...
Fable 2?
Fable Anniversary.
She on... Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know if she'd moved on to 3
She's
yet.
played 2 and 3. And so now she's back on 1 since they've up-converted it to that. So.
Right. Cool.
That was it.
All right, should we move on to news then?
Let's.
Okay.
Or as we like to call it, who cares?
Who cares? Yeah, we've decided to name our news segment every week, Who Cares?
Who cares?
Doctor Who's going on a world tour.
Who cares?
Is he coming to my town?
Nope.
Then
Who cares?
12 days,
Apparently,
7
who doesn't
cities,
care for us?
7 cities across 5 continents in 12 days.
So a couple of continents is getting 2 visits.
Seoul, Sydney, New York, Mexico City, and Rio de Janeiro is where it ends. And of course, I believe it's London and Cardiff. Started off. So it's ending August 14th. So I think we can kind of extrapolate the idea that Who will likely start the 16th to the 23rd.
Hey, well, get the schedule updated.
Schedule's updated.
Because it's all going to be in advance in promotion of the new season.
That frees up your schedule ideas.
Maybe-
So get them down.
I'd be surprised if it was before the
There's a little more
14th.
wiggle room.
I don't think it would be. I think you're right. I think the 14th is going to be the...
It starts on the 7th. So if
tour.
If anything, maybe the 9th.
I don't know. Maybe they
Start the tour and then go and do. But if I remember correctly, before Series 7, they did a bunch of press events and
I thought it was
special
a month before
screenings. Before
Month.
everything. So it could be interesting.
This is kind of an unprecedented level of attention for the show, and I'm wondering if it's because we're riding this high and BBC's really behind it and pushing it, going, yay, continue the thing, or if there's this worry that David Tennant's gone, Matt Smith's gone, we've cast this old guy, maybe we need to push a little
There might
bit.
be a little bit of both.
I think there's
You
a
know.
little bit of both. Because Capaldi and Coleman are going on it along with Moffat. So
Moffat won't be at every stop, though. I did read that somewhere.
Yeah. So if you're going to be in New York,
Well, he's not allowed to back into South America. So.
Really?
No,
When did that happen?
no, but I gotta fool you at least once an episode. Really?
Something happened that I wasn't aware of?
no Canada stops either.
I have to do with the rainforest, but
Did he kill it?
no, that's why George R.R. Martin is not allowed back into South America.
That's why. But he joined Twitter. Did you see that?
Moffat did? Or
No,
Martin?
Martin. George R.R. Martin. So much for that nice joke of he killed all 140 characters. So yeah, tour. Who cares?
Just based on the size of these books, which I have not read, I can't imagine anything with George R. R. Martin happening on Twitter being interesting.
Or 140 characters.
I mean, just what does he type?
I'm sure it's a lot of half sentences.
All right. Well, Sean, do you want to talk about Galley guests?
I would love to talk about Galley guests. Gallifrey 1 has made their first guest announcement as of June 12th. So 8 months out, but these are already confirmed, thanks in part to Showmasters, 10th Planet, and Phantom Films, as well as their own direct contacts. They are welcoming the following to next year. First, the boring guys. We'll get those out. Derek Sherwin. And I'm sure you're going, who is Derek Sherwin?
Well, who cares?
Okay. Derek Sherwin was the script editor for Doctor Who from The Web of Fear up to The Mind Robber, and then took over as producer for Patrick Troughton's Swan Song War Games and Pertwee's debut, Spearhead from Space. So he was kind of overseeing the show as it transitioned into the new era,
for some really
which I think would be
interesting
I think that
panels.
would be a really interesting panel to see there. Andy Pryor, who has been the casting director since Doctor Who returned in 2005, so he's had a hand in all of the new Doctors, kind of leading up to that. Some of the standard guests, Gary Russell, Tony Lee, Paul Cornell's coming back, Jason Hay-Ellery from Big Finish. Sarah Louise Madison is a name not known to us, but her face certainly is, because she has played the principal Weeping Angel in every Weeping Angel story.
Oh.
She also was in Journey to the Center of the TARDIS as a time zombie. Christopher Neame, best known as the villain Skagra from the unfinished serial Shada.
Ooh.
He's also been in Star Trek Enterprise, Babylon 5, The A-Team, Beauty and the Beast, etc. And he was in License to Kill. And so now I got to look this guy up because, okay, he's got a Bond connection. I'm really...
And Ghostbusters 2.
And Ghostbusters 2. Terry Malloy, who is Davros in all the R's. that we've got.
Everything besides the first.
Everything besides the first Davros. Fraser Hines is coming back.
And the last Davros. He wasn't the last Davros.
He wasn't the last Davros.
You should have been
Zoe. Wendy Padbury is coming. Tegan. Janet Fielding is coming.
She must be recovering well. She's
She
doing
must
a lot
be.
of touring lately.
Yeah. My girl, Ace. Sophie Aldred is coming. And then, strangely, the ones that I'm almost the most excited about, Kai Owen and Eve Miles. We got Gwen and Reese coming from Torchwood.
That'd be a neat panel to listen to.
Yeah, I think so.
Just neat to see them together again. Because I'm sure they'll do a panel
Well,
together.
just seeing a lot of the stuff that I've read behind the scenes, that those guys were a hoot together behind the scenes. So it'd be nice to hear some stories.
So, and that's just the starters. So,
Yay! More to come.
Good
who cares?
start.
More to come.
Who cares? Only people that got tickets.
yay! And no bed.
What's the,
I could take my bed.
Michelle got
There you
tickets,
go.
right? So hopefully she got a room. Maybe you guys can bunk with her.
remember.
I don't remember if she got. I think she did. Somebody got tickets.
I think
was it
she
She's
Michelle?
definitely got tickets.
Was it
but I
Michelle or
don't know
Brittany?
I think it was Michelle.
Michelle.
I think it was
Brittany
Michelle.
couldn't for some reason.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I don't know if Chrissy could either. So.
Yeah.
All right, next bit of news.
Doctor Who experience to be revamped.
Yay!
Again. It's being rebranded to bring it up to date with the arrival of the 12th Doctor this autumn. It's closing its door for 6 weeks from September 1st. From 6 weeks to then. Will reflect the new Doctor current walkthrough experience where you step through a crack in time and help the 11th Doctor... What? Step through a crack in time and help the 11th Doctor will be replaced by a brand new sequence. Oh, there was a
sequence,
thing where you walk through. Okay,
Right.
That sentence was structured weird. There's going to be a brand new sequence starring Peter Capaldi.
The ride.
I heard a
done.
rumor, and I didn't do too much digging into this, that there's a group of fans that are trying to save the 11th Doctor's segment because they think that's more appropriate to the experience. But how do you know? You don't know what the Capaldi experience is going to be.
As long as they put it on a DVD, I'm fine with it. I mean, well, like they did with...
Back to the Future, the ride?
Yeah, and the Star Trek experience.
Oh, is that on the DVD?
That's on the Blu-ray set.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Along
I
with,
didn't get to do the Borg one. I did
really?
the Enterprise one.
Yeah, along with the decommissioning ceremony when they took it out, which I foolishly watched at home alone.
Oh, did you cry?
I bawled my eyes out. They came down, they had this big thing for, because some of these people have worked in this place for 10 years since they opened it.
Right.
And they had this official decommissioning ceremony where they had the last ride, the last this, the last this. They closed the curtains in front of the building and they had them a little scaffold thing up there. And then in full Starfleet regalia, this person came out and presented the manager a folded up Starfleet flag. And I was just a sobbing mess at this point.
Well, I did the
This was so
I did the
sad.
Enterprise one with you, and then you and Dave and Lori went through and did the Borg one.
Oh, so you never did go back and do the Borg one,
I did go back and do the Borg one. Well, because when we were there, the 40 part of it was broke down or something.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't get the full
so
40 experience.
That was Holly and I discussed it. We thought, well, if we can get back here, we'll do it when they've got it fixed. But then, of course, we down.
Yeah.
It was decommissioned. Yeah, we went on that with you when we were in Vegas. That's right. You were there.
I remember that.
You were there. We went through the museum together, too, or the little entry thing.
It's the timeline.
Yeah, the timeline. I think we got way ahead of you guys.
We had drinks at Quarks.
So we didn't, because you guys went through the Borg one, and then you went to Quarks, and we had gone on to, I think did we go to the Secret Garden, or we went to Madame Tussauds or something? We went on and did another event.
You should have had drinks at Quarks.
That's what I heard. I heard it was a lot of fun.
I should make Borg Sphere next week.
But then they just kept bringing you drinks, didn't they, for free or something?
It wasn't quite that good,
No.
but
But they just kept bringing you drinks.
you had to keep paying for them, but they were happy to keep bringing them as long as you kept paying. No, when the Borg Sphere comes out and it's in a fishbowl like this, it's like, all right.
You made it for us once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had it several times.
All right, well, Doctor Who experience
Way better
going
than the
away.
Warcore Breach. No, only for 6 weeks.
For 6 weeks. Not forever like
Not
the Star
forever.
Trek experience.
Well, I guess some people misread the Facebook stuff shortly.
Oh, really?
Like when they posted it. They
thought it was going
they
away?
freaked out for a second. And
Oh my
they
God,
read the
it's
rest
going
of
away.
the sentence and, oh, good. It's not going away.
it over the pond yet.
One last bit of news.
John Barrowman,
It was Julie Gardner, right?
Julie Gardner,
and Julie Gardner.
are now MBEs, whatever that means.
Members of the British Empire. They were awarded members of the British. That's
is
the
this the
thing.
first step to getting
that's
knighted?
the thing. Well, I think you can be knighted without being MBE. It's one of those hierarchy of honors within the. Basically, if you do things to the service of the crown, whether it be entertainment, whether it be any other plethora of different things that you do, you're awarded.
It's a part
as
of the
member
2014 Queen's Birthday Honors List.
See, there you go.
That seems like a really weird thing.
It's the thing that the Beatles got and then they gave back because they did in protest. So, or I think John gave his back. But anyway.
It seems like a really weird thing to be, this is my birthday. I'm going to celebrate by awarding something to somebody else.
She does that. In fact, for the Jubilee, she gave her servants, or help, I should say. I can't remember what that story was. And I thought it was hilarious because 5 years ago, when she celebrated her birthday, she gave him like extravagant, like watches or something like this, and that was like it was an engraved plate for the Jubilee, which you think would be bigger, but anyway.
And we spent all the money on the bunting.
Well, yeah, it was because of the fact that they were, the economy wasn't as good. Anyway, I added that late. Sorry, we talked about it pre-show, but
so as Bowerman is an official, not
the most
person.
Excellent Order of the British Empire.
He's not of English personage.
Yes, he is.
I thought we established he was an American who...
No, he was born in the UK.
Born in the UK.
He has dual residency, and was raised in the United States.
Oh.
But he's lived in. I think he's the one who has the apartment in Cardiff, or flat in Cardiff that Amy Karen Gillan was renting and had a party and destroyed a countertop or something. I don't remember what it was.
And he got this announcement while he was in Australia.
Yeah, he's a British citizen.
So, remember, the British Empire apparently doesn't extend to British citizens. Right? Wouldn't birth automatically kind of grant you status into a member of British Empire?
No, it's a title. It's simply all it is. I mean, just because you're a citizen doesn't mean you're a member of the British Empire. It's kind of like being a knight. You're just.
It's not as cool as being a knight.
No, it's not supposed to be a knight, but it's part of that whole hierarchy.
It's the most excellent order.
It's probably like getting
honor.
a Congressional Medal of Honor or something like that.
Or being on the president's list of honor roll.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
We're equating it to the dean's list now.
Sean,
no, the president's list.
Sean,
not the dean's list.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Should we move on to feedback?
Yes. We don't have a witty name.
Who cares?
First up
is... you know what? I'm going to... For all of you within the sound of my voice, I hereby ordain you official members in good standing of the Traveling the Vortex family. And that's as good as
just across the board.
Just across the board. If you can hear it, you're now in. And that's as good as an MBE.
So is number one fan, is that part of the hierarchy?
She's knighted. That's
now that works. We can now have several knights and give more than one.
Knights of Traveling the Vortex.
Yes.
All right.
First up is Eric. He writes, Farmer Who. Hey guys, happy Father's Day, Glenn.
Thank you.
First off, I just realized I was getting down to the deadline and neither typed my feedback nor taken the photo of the little brig. I just stepped out with my wife's phone to take some photos.
I forgot about those.
The cloud will share them with me by the time I'm done typing. If not, I'll try again later with hopefully better photos. These were rather blurry and overexposed. Second, since the last time I wrote you, I had finished getting through both Season 2 of Torchwood and Children of Earth. And after doing so, dove back into your archive and listened to your reviews of those. I was disheartened to find that the Season 2 review was no longer available for download. Have you guys considered arranging to have your oldest episodes made available by making a second podcast? That would be handy for new listeners.
Why are they not available?
Well, we had to space-wise.
Did we have
they
to purge some
are
stuff?
available.
Just
if you
available.
are trying to find them on iTunes, they probably will not be. However, if you go to our website,
right?
Let me do some checking on that, Eric, because there might be a situation where something got mislinked. What I had to do is because of Spacewise, some episodes were moved, of our previous episodes were moved to another server, and iTunes will only carry up to our last 100 shows. So like this is 181, so they'll only go back to 82. If that's not the case, where you're going back and you have been able to get them off of our website, but now you've run into an issue where you're not getting them, that's probably on our part. But if you're trying to get them off of iTunes, you can't go back past 100 episodes from whatever or the current episode is. So I will do some checking on that, Eric, and let you know. It might just be a mislink, but it does exist on a server. It just may not be linked to there directly right now. I might have missed a step in linking them. So I'll check on that and find out.
Cool.
Aware. I'm glad there's people going back and doing old episodes so that we can kind of catch these things, because our with 181 episodes, our stuff has
Yeah.
become massive, and so it's really hard to. In fact, I think
Well, and-
I think we're ready to start moving another 30 or so episodes off to the other server so that we can maintain having room on the server that we're on for our new stuff.
To give you perspective, Season 2 was episode 43.
Episode 43. Well, that definitely wouldn't be available in iTunes, but if he's been getting them,
But,
he's been getting them from our website, so that's probably
yeah.
a website issue. So.
Because Children of Earth was 79.
Okay.
So
79 wouldn't be on iTunes either. Yeah, you're right.
We'll
Okay,
look
I'll
into
do
it.
some checking on that, Eric. Thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Season 2 was uneven. Children of Earth was phenomenal, but dark. There you go. Now you don't have to go back and listen to it.
But Season 2 is better than Season 1.
Yes. We decided that, didn't we?
Yeah, I did, at least. One of the things that Glenn said in the Children of Earth review stuck with me, and I felt the need to comment on, as I remember hearing the mistake one previous time. Please forgive me if someone has gotten to this before. Glenn was ranting about how he hated what Russell T. Davies had done with Stephen Moffat's character. Sorry, Glenn, but even though Stephen Moffat wrote Empty Child and The Doctor Dances, which introduced Captain Jack to the Whoniverse, Captain Jack, Jack Harkness is RTD's creation. Davies wanted an exotic companion that was a nice contrast to Rose, so he came up with the concept of Jack. Moffat's contributions to the character were his initial presentation and his career as a con man, that RTD was responsible for his omnisexuality and his background as a renegade time agent. A fan wanked to reference TTV favorite Talons of Wen Chang. Sorry for not citing sources, but I'm running out of time and you have Google.
I certainly agree with that, Eric. The thing that I have a problem with is this, not so much that, and I probably did pin down Stephen Moffat's character, RTD. The problem is that
it's the Doctor Who character.
It's
character.
overall, because I thoroughly enjoy when Captain Jack returns at the end of or at the beginning of Utopia, and is there all the way through to
Sound the Drums.
Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords.
That's the time.
And then when he again returns for Stolen Earth and Journey's End, it's that Captain Jack that I prefer, no matter who's writing him. It's whenever the Torchwood Captain Jack shows up, there's such a stark contrasting difference, which, don't get me wrong, is necessary for how they're doing or how they've done Torchwood. But I thoroughly enjoy the Captain Jack from Doctor Who because he's a different type of Captain Jack, and I like that aspect of it better. I probably just misspoke in the sense that I was crediting that to Stephen Moffat. I don't, although I think Stephen Moffat, his writing is what, even though the ideas came from RTD,
it helped set the tone.
The character, the tone was set by Stephen Moffat, and so even later he's not so much the con man or time agent anymore. He makes a better companion and a better character within the Doctor Who universe, and I just don't like him in Torchwood. And so that's what I've always meant by saying that, by separating the two. So, and the only reason I say I don't like what RTD did with him is because it's at the point that RTD decided to enter him into Torchwood and use him in a different way, which, again, I can justify or understand why it was done for Torchwood, because Torchwood is a vastly different show, and it needed Captain Jack to go that direction. But I don't like that. I don't have to like the fact that they took Captain Jack that direction, because I enjoy Captain Jack much better in Doctor Who, in all of the Doctor Who, everything that he's been in Doctor Who. He always feels like that character that we were initially introduced to every time that he's used in Doctor Who, and that's what I like about Jack.
Okay, he continues. About Big Finish subscriptions, I just looked again. It certainly looks to me like you can pick a period of 6 or 12 consecutive months from any time in their catalog and not only get a discount, but also get some exclusive audio plays that are only for subscribers. You guys might want to look into these so you don't miss out. I'm glad you clarified that also for us, Eric. Now, to tie this more to the subject line...
Did we mislead him on that? I don't remember misleading him on that.
I looked it up and we
were unclear.
We speculated
on how the subscription might have actually worked. That it's not that you get to pick.
Oh, was I here on this conversation? Because I knew you didn't get a pick. You signed up and monthly got.
No, according to him, you get to pick a certain amount of time. from back catalog.
but it's
It's still consecutive.
yeah, it's still consecutive. I guess maybe I misunderstood the conversation. You can go back in and grab a subscription,
choose back
but
catalog.
it's still consecutive.
Oh.
I knew you couldn't. It wasn't like a la carte. We couldn't subscribe a la carte.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's what we weren't clear on.
That's why I was surprised by this. Okay,
the website,
gotcha.
from what I saw, didn't really make it clear.
Yeah, because
I have like it's you sign up and you get the next 12 months.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, and you can. I mean, that's the idea. Is they want you to subscribe now and get 12 months, but you're able to go back. That's how I've picked up some of the extra stuff is by subscribing for X amount of time. So
gotcha. Now, to tie this more into the subject line than just fuzzy goat pictures, the pictures, not the goats. While I have obviously not heard of this story or any of the others with Charlie, I have heard a few reviews of yours and know a bit about her from them. A few weeks ago, I was doing some outside work when it occurred to me that Charlie's surname is descriptive. Let me explain in case no one else has pointed this out to you before. There is an old technique for growing certain types of commercial trees called coppiching? I don't know how to pronounce that.
it's Copic, I believe.
Coppiching. It involves cutting the tree down at the base every 7 to 15 years, depending on the species. The tree will then start growing again by forming new trunks around the old stumps. This helps keep the tree young, increases fruit production, keeps fruiting areas manageable and within reach, and allows you to regularly and allows for sustainable harvesting of wood. So what does this have to do with Charlie, you might ask? Well, coppiching is great. Coppiching is great, unless you regularly have animals in your orchard that might like to eat the fruit and leaves off your trees. If this is the case, you might want to cut the tree off at a point much higher off the ground, out of reach of the animals, and have the new growth form around that cut. This is called pollarding. Does this not sound like a metaphor for Charlie's life, with a trunk being cut beneath Charlie's life before she was supposed to die, and the new growth around the cut being her life with the doctor? Interesting idea.
Eric, you're far too deep for this podcast. I'm going to refer you over to the probably Verity would be a good one, I think. For I hadn't thought of that.
I'd never even heard of that phrase.
I didn't know that's what that was. Doesn't that sound like a metaphor for Charlie's life with the truck beneath the cover? Yeah, I think you're thinking too deeply into it, but if somebody comes forth and says, yeah, hey, that's what we did, kudos to you for seeing that, but I think that's reading into something a little more. I'd have to have somebody come and say, yeah, that's what we did before I would buy that. But yeah, that's an interesting theory.
To the
what
idea,
else could it be?
And adds depth to the idea.
It could have been a cool name that somebody picked down and said, Pollard. We'll go with Pollard. There's a trunk beneath your cut with Charlie's life before she's supposed to die and the new growth. I can see where you're getting that from. Yeah. Interesting theory.
I'm intrigued. Keep going.
Okay.
Well, he says, well, that's it. Next time, Eric. P.S. Yeah, the pictures were crap. I'll try to get to him in the daylight when I can take pictures of him with the fence between us.
Okay, well, from the green glowing eyes from the second picture, Eric, you should have called him Sutek. Yeah, I know that's from The Flash. Reflection on the back of the, iris?
No, Sutek wasn't in The Flash. Sutek was in Doctor Who.
Yeah, he looks more like Sutek in this picture. Very cool. Thank you for the pictures, Eric.
Yeah. We'll still post them on our website.
Keith will get right on that.
I will do that.
All right.
Up next is Chrissy.
Chrissy writes, the secret of good Lego building. Symmetry. Dear Vortex boys, I've got to keep this short, but I hope all the dad types out there have a great Father's Day. Also, thanks for the kind words and encouragement about the 5-ish Fangirls podcast. It's a little nerve-wracking and exciting all at the same time, but we do appreciate all the support we've gotten from you three and also your listeners. So,
Wait. And if you have not seen, episode 2 has been released now.
Oh, I have not seen.
Yeah. It looks like
I know, I've been waiting on it all day, and then I had to come over here, and it still wasn't up.
It's been posted since then.
I'm looking forward to listening.
So I have absolutely no idea what Something Inside was about. I listened to it twice, and the only thing I remember is people yelling about a brainworm. A brainworm escaping from the doctor's mind, playing variations of Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo to figure out where the brainworm was, and everyone died except Team TARDIS. I guess it didn't make that much of an impression on me. I hope it's not vital to the rest of the Eighth Doctor story arc, because that would be awkward. But I do remember Memory Lane, and I loved it. The Doctor, Charlie, and Kariz are dropped in a perfectly normal-ish neighborhood, but everything gets weirder and weirder as the story goes on. The characters are interesting and fun to listen to. The story is strange enough, but not so strange that it completely loses me. I guess there are just enough familiar touchstones for me to get into it, and then just go along with the mystery of what's going on to enjoy the ride. Also, huge points for making Lego part of Doctor Who canon. Continues to poke that particular grumpy bear. That's all I've got for this week. Oh, I finally did manage to get the poll for the book club up so people can go vote for what they want to read in July. And here's a link to the poll. Chrissy.
Yay.
Keith will get that posted on the website.
Well, he can include that in show notes.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Thanks, Chrissy.
I usually just link to the group, so.
Yeah. Go vote on the poll. Let's see here.
All right. Next up then is Holly, another member of the Five-ish Girls fan club. Or fan club, no. We're part of the Five-ish Girls fan club. Part of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. 181, Something Inside Memory Lane. Hey guys, great last podcast. Dr. Phil, thanks for your audio feedback about the Twin Dilemma music. Glenn, I hope that Mason's doing better after his surgery and has a very speedy recovery. On to reviews. Something Inside. Not too much to say about this one. Nobody's going to have much to say about this one. It was a decent audio, but I do admit that I did have to rewind the audio from a time or two to keep track of the action. The Doctor loses his memory in this one yet again. Man, seems to be a running theme with the Eighth Doctor. All in all, the Mindworm was a pretty creepy character. Memory Lane. This was an enjoyable audio. The whole thing with the Legos was cool. This is the reoccurring use of green... Then the reoccurring use of green sleeves was a nice touch. The whole thing with creating a world to make you happy was
That's
interesting, and that the creature creature using the memories to survive was struggling while dealing with Kariz. It was nice to see some more backstory about Charlotte's mother, even if it might not be quite real. I loved how she was at first a little upset that Charlotte skinned her knee after climbing up the tree, yet still very proud that she made it all the way to the top. Another scene that I enjoyed was when Charlotte wasn't too concerned as to why the Doctor was looking for an ice cream truck, but I think she then realized how serious it was when he told her that the ice cream truck had taken the TARDIS. I'm thinking the Doctor might want to go get a low jack for the TARDIS. I've lost count on how many times that the TARDIS has been dragged off by someone. Well, I'll wrap it up here. Looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts on these two audio adventures. Holly from Wisconsin. Thank you, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.
It's not a bad idea on that low jack.
Isn't it funny that he can sit there and be overly concerned when somebody takes the TARDIS, but it can fall out of a spaceship or an airship or bob around in the ocean, and he's like, it'll turn up. Is it just needs of the episode now? I mean, are we to that point where it's just
really.
Whatever the script calls for, that's what we're going to deal with it?
How can we make it so that they can't get away easily? That's kind of always been the MO. Well, let's move on to our reviews. That's it for our feedback. Something Inside. While the Eighth Doctor finds himself in a prison for soldiers given psychic powers, Kariz is left at the mercy of the torturer Twist, and Charlie has to escape the dreaded brainworm.
Dun, dun, dun!
Solid.
Yeah, very solid story.
I liked this one.
What was that?
I
Somebody's
don't know.
phone vibrated.
Somebody buzzed.
Must have been my phone.
Oh, mine's in my pocket. So.
Keith, lead us off.
It's a bit discerning when you start this story because it does the kind of nice little time jump forward and backwards in the first episode, which kind of caught my attention off the top of having to focus of what's going on and why is
between where the doctor is and where Chris and
well, because the doctor's there, and then it flashes back to it's almost like 17 hours ago or whatever would be on the screen, but we don't have that because it's audio,
right?
And I don't really remember Big Finish doing that very often, from what I can recall. So I thought that was kind of a nice new way to start it and get my attention off the bat. Oh, and then you meet these great, interesting characters, and I didn't know where it was going or what was happening with the Mind Worm, and it just unraveled and became so much. I loved the idea of, okay, humankind built or made these psychics to help fight their war, and then they couldn't really rehabilitate, and they had to lock them in a prison. That's such a neat idea, I think, and it kind of is Cube-ish, like the movie. The Cube kind of had that feel to it a lot too.
Well, sort of echoes the same concept from A Town Called Mercy, where they had engineered super soldiers and then had to basically...
What do you do? It's a great question, because what do you do with super soldiers after the war's done?
Right.
Well, you got to do something with them. I thought Twist was a little over the top in his torturing, and...
He was a bit senior chewing as far as
he was very mad scientist. Yeah. He was very...
wringing the hands.
Yeah, if he had come out of Iron Sky, I would not have been surprised. I think Twist missed his calling. He should have been a Nazi. But yeah, he was a bit much.
But I did like Latch. I thought Gordon Latch was an interesting character, and was it Tessa? Was the other the main powerful one? I thought they were very interesting characters.
The older, more sensible, character who ultimately turns out being the most dangerous person.
Well, yeah, but was still. I didn't know what they were going to do with the brain worm, and then when they laid that reveal out there, I was like, "Wow, that's pretty impressive." And that also shows how powerful she is, that she can keep it at bay in her head. And then I kind of had to laugh at Raiden when he's so very much doesn't believe any. He turns on a dime once kind of they get to the point where he doesn't believe about the brain worm and that it's somewhere else, and then all of a sudden, once he sees evidence, he's all the opposite direction. It's kind of like, holy crap, you're one of those guys. I got you. But I also thought Charlie had a lot of great stuff to do in this. She got to kind of explore and got to try to unravel what's going on. Kariz felt a little underutilized, I thought.
You can tell that it's almost from the companion's point of view of the story that Charlie's used a lot in that sense. Well, so Kariz almost becomes this tag-along.
Yeah, he's the one who's getting tortured.
It's used well in the sense that he's being used against the Doctor in order to get... for Twist to get the information out of him, or not Twist, the other guy.
I feel so bad, Raiden.
Yeah,
Rodden. I feel so bad for Kariz. He has such a bad luck of it all, constantly getting tortured and the stuff with his brain. I'm really starting to feel really bad for this guy at this point.
It almost seems to justify this psychic thing that's absorbing different people and characters and traits and personalities.
That we get a little bit of payoff of that next story too.
So it almost, I was a bit weirded out by that in the past, and almost had just a disdain for that idea or that concept.
Yeah.
Now, and the more things that happen to him, the more sympathetic he.
And he's getting to use it, even in this, a little bit to his advantage.
Yes.
As opposed to it being a weakness for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul McGann did such a phenomenal job in this too, even though he's the Doctor through most of it, doesn't know much of anything. Like the amnesia in this, I thought was very interesting because he knew who he was, he knew what was, and just the leaps of logic he took of, well, how do you know you're not a warmonger? Well, I would imagine my name would be Warmonger then. I'm a doctor. I heal people. Obviously, that's what my name is. It's just such he's still the Doctor, even though he doesn't know who he is. That's how awesome Paul McGann is.
And
as the
such
Doctor.
Paul McGann dialogue.
Yeah.
It's dialogue that... It's one of those things that I listen to these and I frequently get to a point where I can't really imagine another doctor saying this stuff. It kind of goes in with what you were saying, that I'm tired of hearing other doctors recite this stuff. Because it's dialogue that was written for that doctor. And there's so much of it that, bring me knitting. Nobody else could have delivered that. It just that's so Paul. And so much of this stuff, even when he's not himself, is still him,
Somebody else brought this up. It seems to be a common theme in the Doctor's life, the Eighth Doctor's life, that he just is continually losing his memory all the time. It seems to be kind of the go-to.
Oh, what do we do
crutch.
with this Doctor?
Yeah, and it's happened in the novels. I mean, but I think that it's
More so
happened
in
in
the
Big
novel.
Finish.
More so in the
and
novels.
it's happened in Big Finish.
I'm trying to remember the other times other than when Zagreus took over.
Well,
the one you didn't like.
Minuet in Hell.
Minuet in Hell.
There's been a lot of
Well,
occasions.
and see, I think that's one difference between this and Minuet in Hell, is he still was the Doctor, even though he didn't have his memories.
Right.
He wasn't as much in Minuet in Hell.
Right, but it's still a theme. That's
still
what
a
I'm
theme,
saying.
yeah.
But I think I think that writers, I think that's set forth because his first and up until recently only appearance on television was he started out with memory loss. And I think that that's where a lot of people either subconsciously or consciously bring that from when they're writing these stories.
They went to the Doctor Who, the movie, the Bible. When the Doctor loses his memory, or he doesn't know who he is, screams, "Who am I?" Okay. That's what I got for this character. I got him to lose his memory at some point.
What I really liked about Something Inside was the fact that it's written in such a way and it's performed in such a way that I really almost felt really, really disturbed by the fact that I can't imagine what it would be like to have these just holes in your memory.
Oh, yeah.
That's what, and I think it was portrayed
that whole
so well.
speech he gave when it took part of me, and I don't know what part of me it took.
Right.
Such
When
powerful.
when the worm when he actually has the brain.
When
That
he's
also
essentially yelling at Charlie about it.
That also sold it, because I was... The first 5 minutes were like, oh, we're doing another one of these where he's lost his memory and doesn't recall what happened to him episodes.
I did the same thing.
Jeez, why are we going there? But then we got the flashback, and it was like, well, okay, at least you're going to keep my attention with it, as opposed to droning on and on and on with, I'm strapped to a table and being tortured for things I don't know. And then as the story progressed, it really, because it wasn't typical amnesia. He obviously knew who he was to an extent.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't know all the details. And then hearing that speech when he comes out and describes that hole there, that I know that I have forgotten something, but I cannot figure out what it is.
I don't know what it is. Yeah.
And I can't imagine reaching for something in my own memory and not being. I would presume it's probably like having Alzheimer's.
I would think so.
You're struggling to reach for something that just isn't there. It's just gone. It's been removed. You know it's there. You know everything around and surrounding that. But that's just got these holes in your memory, and that would be so frustratingly agonizing to have to be. And I think it's portrayed and it comes across well enough that I could imagine, what would that be like?
Yeah.
That would be horrible. And so I really like that aspect of it. And I was like Sean when I thought, there we go, memory loss story again. This is a common trait for the Doctor, but then when it was done so well. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the performances were so good. It was quite the twist when we start to reveal where this brainworm has been residing, and then we find out that Tessa, who we've they've developed this comfort with her because she is that one that doesn't have the homicidal thoughts like. What's his name? Latch, and you don't have these.
Well, and she's sectioned herself off
exactly.
because she doesn't
she's
trust
separated
them.
because she doesn't trust the faction, and so you just have this wonderful trust, and then to drop that bomb that's where this thing's been residing. It's like, whoa,
Well, and
but she's also it's almost comfortable the fact that it's in her because it's almost like it's a tad bit manageable, but because if it had been in anybody else, everybody would have been wiped out.
Exactly. And then going into the Doctor and him being able to keep it under control and unlock his memories. And then the Mexican standoff if we don't know who is in it.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
There were so many, I thought, okay, it's going to be this person, it's going to be this person. And then I didn't even, it didn't dawn on me that it was going to be. It ended up being in Latch at the end,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yeah, it was in
Yeah,
Latch at
I
the
did
end,
not
yeah.
expect that to be coming
Yeah.
since he wasn't even there when
Now,
it escaped.
I didn't listen
Brilliant.
to this. I mean, I listened to it. I hadn't listened to this except for recently because I listened to it 4 or 5 weeks ago. You also remind me, I don't remember it ending with everybody dying. Why don't I remember that? I remember the TARDIS crew getting away.
They get away, and
and I love the line. This was
Latch
later, sorry.
stays in the cube because everybody else but Latch and Raiden.
Right, I remember
had-
Latch staying behind.
And Raiden went in there and like sacrificed himself to make sure he didn't that Latch doesn't escape. And pretty much
okay, no, I remember
for,
that
for
too. I
atoning
remember
for what
that
he had
too.
done to these people.
Right, I remember that too.
And
Okay,
that was everybody at that point.
Okay, at that
there was
point-
5 at the end, and
Yeah.
because it killed Tessa
and it killed.
before Raiden ran off.
How did Jane die? Because that was the one
she
I
died
couldn't
earlier
remember.
on?
He got Jane earlier.
Yeah.
So it was between whoever the first guy that we don't get introduced to because it killed one guy first.
Yeah.
and then
well, we had his name, but I don't remember it.
yeah,
now.
and it's not in the cast list here
Yeah,
for some
it isn't.
reason. But yeah, so he had died. So
Is it
then
in the book
okay,
cast
so then
list?
she was later. Yeah, okay. I'd forgotten that she had actually got off to kind of midpoint or a little later.
Yeah.
Did anybody now? Until we got to that reveal, I was totally in the dark on the fact that this was a mental thing. Like I knew
Well,
it
they
was.
kept calling it a brainworm.
It was a brainworm.
We just didn't know what it was.
And we'd hear it running, and the doctor was kind of going, "Did you
always
see it?
chasing them. And
Yeah. Did you actually physically see it? Well, of course I did. Did you see it? Describe it to me." And then she can't do it. And at that point, it was when I went, "Oh, well, maybe this is a projection of something. That this is, whatever this thing is fooling with their minds." But I still never really, until they came out and said, "Oh, yeah, it's a real thing. It's this parasite, and it's living in her brain."
75.
Did I go, "Oh my," because I just assumed there was a physical entity
I kind of
to it.
assumed-
Yeah.
or
That
at least a
was-
physical entity was being projected.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which kind of is still what the case was, but not that it was just entirely mental. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I would agree.
or in her head.
Right.
I would have still thought there was an alien bug somewhere
Right.
projecting things to it.
Correct.
I just that was such a huge whoa, kind of moment. Yeah.
There were so many things I did not. It didn't go the way I expected it to go. So that's one thing this has up on a lot of other ones is it wasn't predictable. The only thing I think I predicted in advance was, oh, this isn't actually a prism, and maybe the psychic stuff a little bit because they dropped the hints on early on about that. But everything else I did not see coming, which I applaud because that I'm kind of like you, Sean.
good
I kind of
storytelling.
can pick things out. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's one thing to be led to that, here's the trail of breadcrumbs and to kind of be led along. It's another thing to just go, yeah, I'll meet you at the end when you get to...
Which I kind of had that with Memory Lane.
When you get done mucking around with this stuff, I'll see you at the finish line
Yeah.
because I'm not enjoying the ride anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah,
This one was well done.
I thought was very, very well done.
So apparently, this was originally planned to be in the Divergent Universe story arc,
Yeah.
which it kind of fits in the tone and the atmosphere, I think.
I think so too. In fact,
It
this
would have
had
helped.
it been in the Divergent
This would have-
universe,
this would have lifted
this
the
would have been
Divergent.
one of those ones in the Divergent universe. I'd have gone, okay, there's a good one. That was a good story.
Which it almost feels like it would have been early on in the Divergent when they were doing the different sections,
Yeah, likely.
I don't know if that's when they planned to put it in there, but yeah.
Yeah, this would have elevated the Divergent universe a little bit in my mind.
Anything else about Something Inside?
Gosh, I don't know. We've kind of hit on everything. So.
Yes, actually, the incidental music. What was up with that? Did anybody else think that was really... For as strong as the story was, and as cool as the ideas were, I felt like the production itself kind of fell down on the job, because we had this very strange incidental music that played, because behind the conversations, particularly between the doctor and... Who's the guy? The prisoner? Not the prisoner, but the warden.
Rodden.
They're having these heavy, weighty conversations, and in the background is this little...
I didn't
It's almost like
honestly
50s
notice.
sitcom music. It was like, what is this Why are you playing this
Sure, you
here?
weren't hearing Sid Meier's soloization.
I'm sure I wasn't hearing Sid Meier's
I don't remember.
I don't remember that either.
I can't say that I remember the incidental music that much, and to me, that says that I didn't notice that element to it, because if I don't remember it, to me, it did its job and was correct. So,
but then there was also sound effects, because there were a lot of
the sound effects. I thought
sound effects were really well done.
See, I thought they were really horrible,
See,
because there was a lot of walking.
Did you guys imagine the smoke monster every time the memory worm came out? Just the noises it made.
Keith, I will never imagine the smoke monster.
All right, fine.
Ever. No, that's what I
the
scratching noise I was okay with, but there was a lot of scenes of them walking. How do we get out of the prison? Well, we're going to walk. And then big, heavy, clumpy boots on metal grating that
but
didn't...
wasn't that expected in a big, giant prison cube?
But not with...
I think you're odd.
Not with Charlie.
What were you listening to this on? Because sometimes
I have my headphones in.
Sometimes because sometimes your stereo audio, you always complain about certain things, and I think you just got your settings wrong or something. But
I had my
you had your
headphones
on.
But yeah,
it
Charlie
could have
was
been
walking.
amplified for him more than it would have been for
Maybe
me,
that's
because mine was going through an RF modulator.
I listened to mine on a car stereo. So
did I. So
yeah, maybe I just picked up things you guys didn't. But yeah, just like Charlie's talking,
maybe it's
and
not
there's
meant
this
to be listened to with headphones on.
Ka-clunk, ka-clunk, ka-clunk on overeating.
Nothing was.
What is she wearing? Combat boots? I mean,
nothing was over exaggerated.
I guess I always just assumed it was somebody else clomping. One of the guys.
I don't
One
know.
of the guys. She was with.
I don't mind
footsteps.
I don't mind footsteps. Obviously, you need the footsteps to convey that we're walking. Okay, I get it, but it really felt overdone. It was overproduced in my mind. It was overproduced, and the background music. Those are my only complaints about it. I mean, I thought everything else was top notch, but I thought that was really strange.
I didn't think that
some of the
walking I thought felt echoey, but that's all I can say.
Yeah, but
the reason, but again, in my mind, I pictured this giant metallic cube that was a prison system, and so you're going to have some of that metallic echoing.
Yeah, and I would have been fine with that, but like I said, it just didn't match. Huh. It felt really.
I might have thought different if I listened to it in headphones.
I don't know.
Too, though, so.
Maybe mountains out of molehills. So that's my only.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't notice it, I'll leave it be.
Well, let's move on to memory lane.
The music certainly did not stand out to me. So.
The Eighth Doctor, Charlie Pollard, and Cariz arrive in a suburban street which appears to be endless, and every house on it is identical. When they lose track of which house the TARDIS is in, the need to escape from this humdrum hell and to discover its true purpose becomes more pressing. It has something to do with an ice cream van and a lost astronaut.
Dun dun dun! I'll give it that because I enjoyed this one much more.
I found it more predictable, but it was more fun to listen to. Something Inside was a great story, but it was very heavy and very dark.
Yes.
This was the other side of the coin.
This was light.
It was light. It was fun.
Yes.
And there was a lot of great character moments.
I think I tend to lean towards the stories that I hate to pigeonhole these into one type of story, but this felt more like a Doctor Who story to me, and so I think that's why because it was more enjoyable. I thought the Doctor, while I think the performance was very solid and probably even more solid in Something Inside, this was more in character with the Eighth Doctor.
Yeah,
it was more lighthearted and more bouncy and funny. Yeah, I had the reverence to it.
These shoes are wonderful moments
exactly.
in this. Yeah, especially with the ice cream and.
So I think that's what I enjoyed about it, and it did. It was a comedy of errors at times, especially with the ice cream truck running off, and I could just imagine the Doctor running down the street until it disappeared, and then coming back out of breath, and Charlie saying it's just ice cream. I'm sure it'll come around again, and then having to say, but the TARDIS it took the TARDIS. I was like, oh gosh,
and that's when the story really gets going because otherwise it's kind of like a
wandering around trying to find out what's going on.
Where it is. Has Annika Wills always done Charlie's mom?
I think so.
I believe that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't. I
may be wrong, but I think I had read that a long time ago. Well, what was the last thing she would have been in? The one with the house, right?
I'm trying to remember. I'm looking up her character now. The last one was The Next Life.
Oh, that's right.
And before that was Zagreus.
Well, there was one real early on where they were in the house and they were
according to
bleeding over.
TARDIS Wikia, it's Annika Wills for all of them.
Okay. I think we had pointed that out on one or at least one story
Must have been
before.
Yeah.
So.
It's been so long since we listened to those, though.
I would give the first half of this story a Donna, because I agree with you guys.
Really?
It was light and enjoyable and fitting with the character and weird. Very Doctor Who weird. Very, oh, look, it's all the houses are
All the same.
Well,
They keep showing up
with
and
the
meeting
same
the same
people.
woman.
It almost kind of had an Eerie, Indiana feel to me.
Yeah, I mean, it just one of those kind of light, nonsensical, what the hell?
So appropriately named.
Yeah, memory lane. And the fact that it doesn't matter. I love the montage bit where they're knocking on doors, and the doctor is accepting tea and biscuits at every stop.
I got the impression he only went into the one.
And Charlie's like, "Have you seen me before? Okay, never mind." And then Chris is just, "Blue box? No, thank you."
Yeah.
You know, just,
It's very
he's
in touch with the characters.
He's so, mission oriented. Get in, get out,
and
get the
even
thing.
Charlie, as she gets further along, she gets shorter and
but I mean,
shorter.
she starts off being very polite and sorry to bother you and everything. And the doctor's just like, "Yes, I'd love a cup of tea. Can I come in and watch your telly? Oh, what's in the backyard?" I mean, he's just.
See, I got the impression he never left that.
He
that
may not
first
have.
house.
Oh, he
went
did.
To,
He
went next door.
Well, he also went across the alley,
across
and
the alley.
and went into that house, and it was the same house that he'd been in.
Yeah. But then I thought he went back.
Have you seen me before? No, of course you haven't. So at that time, he's figuring things out.
So much of that was great because that's a weirdness that Doctor Who seems to pull off better than most most shows.
Who were you talking to? I was talking to you because he was in the other yard to the other Mrs. Was it Bronny?
Brody.
Brody.
This is Brody.
But the second half of the story, and I was excited because this is was it Justin Richards or no? Yes. Who wrote
Gary Russell directed.
Who wrote
Eddie
it?
Robson.
Eddie Robson. I love Eddie Robson stuff because Eddie Robson wrote a lot of the Eighth Doctor adventures that I've listened to already. And so when I saw
some of his later ones.
Some of the really enjoyable ones were Eddie Robson's. And so I saw this and went, "Oh, Eddie Robson, I'm so happy because it's going to be awesome." And I don't know, maybe my expectations went up a little too high at that point. Because
this was his first of the Doctor Who mainline.
Okay, that might explain it then. He hasn't quite got it down yet. Because I really felt like the second half of the story, once we get the plot, where it's this astronaut and he's being kept in this prison, and even, which I was like, oh, for another prison, and at least Kariz commented.
What is it with
the TARDIS in prisons
lately?
It just felt like, what's the deal with it? And then, okay, we're using the astronaut to recapture things. And then I realized, and this is maybe nitpicky, I don't know, we took part of the plot of Galaxy Quest, where we've got these aliens who think that the television is real, that these are historical documents, but it's kind of flipped a little bit, that we have to recreate it because we can't remember it.
That was a nice element I didn't expect.
Yeah, I didn't expect it either, but it seems like we took that and then took that god-awful next-gen episode, The Royale. Do you guys remember this one? Early first season, they beam down to this planet, and it's nothing. This complete black nothing. There's no features of anything. But there's a hotel, casino. And they go in the doors to the casino, and it's this 1930s era, thing. Well, they find out that apparently an astronaut from Earth crashed on this planet and had a book called Casino Royale or something, not the Bond one. And so they created this illusion, and that's where he wound up living out his days. They find a skeleton in the bed and a NASA outfit in the closet because the aliens didn't know anything and just assumed that this was how people on Earth lived, was based on the contents of this book. And they were trapped in there, and they couldn't get out, and everything was the same, and everything kept repeating because they only had, 200 pages of story to go off of to know, the events of this. That's what the prison felt like, is that it was very much so cold from this astronaut's memory of something pleasant that, okay, we're going to plug that into here, and he's stuck in this. And as soon as I made that connection, it jerked me right out of the story, and I was like,
that's unfortunate, because
I didn't make that connection.
The only thing that kind of pulled me out of the story is I like the idea. I'm with you. The first part of this thing seems very different than the second half of this thing. But I like that because it was almost like we were going a certain direction with it, and we changed dichotomies. And I thought that was a neat bridge into something just a little different that I wasn't expecting. The only thing that happened to me is when we got into that second part, I kept thinking Truman Show. That was just to me. It was the only thing
Yeah,
I could
I could see
equate it
that,
to was
too.
the Truman Show, and the idea that there were observers that were watching what was going on in this life, and they were using this pilot, what had happened in his life and his memories, in order basically as entertainment fodder for the masses on this planet, and so. That was the only thing that it didn't really take me out of the story. It was just I can equate this to something that I'm familiar with. But I actually like the idea of, in fact, right up until the end, we keep calling it a prison. And had this been somewhere on Earth where somebody would have known better, or a species that was doing it for malice, or for if he had broken some sort of law, or hadn't broken a law, but they said he had, or that kind of thing. Because I think of the Star Trek episode where Will walks on the grass, and they're going to kill him because that's a law there. But when it got to the end, and you almost realized that the beings that are keeping him don't know any better.
Yeah.
That this is kind of because they basically record it in their memory. They don't have any way to keep.
Well, they don't have a long-term memory.
Exactly, and they have no
memory.
way to keep. So I kind of like the idea that was almost a misguided, and I almost wanted, up until the very end, almost wanted the Doctor to reprimand them for what they were doing instead of helping them out. But on hindsight, I look back and I thought it's almost a forgivable instance in the sense that the Doctor just figured out a way to give them what they were naturally using.
Yeah.
In order to progress, and mess with the Prime Directive.
It wasn't a prison so much as it was a green room.
Yeah, exactly.
He's waiting here until he goes on.
Right.
And then we're going to put him back here.
Exactly. And then he would go on again. Yeah.
The idea also, it's first contact with an alien life form.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any other... There's not like they could send him home. Right. He was theirs, so I totally understand why they acted the way they did, and I would agree with the Doctor and how everything went.
And I appreciated the character of Sarah, who actually made it home.
Yeah.
And felt so guilty about the fact that she had made it and just couldn't fit in, that she went back to kind of find him, so that, as well, partially to justify.
It was Kim.
Oh, it was Kim. I'm sorry.
The actress was
Sarah played her. Kim, who, and then went back in order to try to rescue him. Not because she was, number one, feeling guilty for leaving him there, not knowing what happened to him, and number two, trying to justify what had happened, because it was almost that, she came back so much later that it was she didn't, like you said, she didn't fit in, she couldn't find a normal life, so she was going back to something that she was familiar to.
Futurama then.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, and I really liked her and Kara's relationship of how he did.
That's what made the second part of this story the best.
Yeah.
Was just their interactions and the fact that she... the best is when he gets the gun from her, and he says, "How does it work?" And she says, "Why would I tell you?" Well, first you got to take the safety off, and I thought, "You dummy!" And then she says, "Why would I tell you?" And he says, "Because then I'm going to start pushing buttons, and I might accidentally find the kill setting." And I thought, "Oh, that's true." So then she gives him the information that he needs. So I thought that was really well.
They played off each other so well.
Yeah, they just played off each other well.
It gave Kara such good depth
and something to do. Yeah, something to finally do in the story to make you to matter in these stories.
Yeah. And see, since I didn't go to the next gen story, I really liked the idea of this prison, of what a clever way you can even put multiple people in this prison, and it creates a bubble around them and creates a happy memory for them, and they just live out their life. Mm-hmm. That's kind of clever.
I really appreciated the fact that Charlie didn't fall for it.
Yeah. Well,
she started
to, but I mean,
ultimately,
she was aware of it.
That's what that tastes like.
Yeah.
That she was, when her mom showed up, there was that moment of her going, "Oh, this again." Hi, Mom. And she's still happy because, obviously she gets to visit her mom.
Right.
But it's kind of been that recurring thing with her that, we're going to throw this up, and I know it's not you. Whereas so many other people would have been like, "Oh, my God, I'm so happy to see you," blah, 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 and then had that heart-wrenching, tearing away bit.
Agreed, but the longer she's in it, the more she falls into it. And I like
pretty quickly to the little girl.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, when she has to go home from Tim's house, Tom's house. I almost could visualize her skipping down the lane.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Little pigtails.
Yeah.
I think the thing that was the toughest to deal with is the fact that they, instead of creating the pleasant memory for the Doctor in order to extract the information on how to get into the TARDIS, they put
They tortured him
they
again.
tortured him essentially, which I thought was interesting. They started in the sense where they gave him the nice memory of defeating the dictator and
how much fun do you think that scene was to play? Oh, that's brilliant, Doctor!
Yeah.
And being so
They just,
genuinely excited for him.
and then turning around and changing that on him and using the companions against him in that sense. Which another reason why it was almost like gosh, you got to reprimand these people and punish them for what they've done, not reward them.
It's the stuff with the Doctor that makes you go, okay, they should be punished. It's not the stuff
right.
with Tom that makes you say
or even with Charlie, or even with anything else that's going on.
It's the torturing with the Doctors where you're like, okay, wait a minute, you've crossed the line now.
This father, no father. There are 4 lights. Yeah, like I said, I felt as the story went on, I just felt myself, and I hate that might be the reason for it, but I just felt myself growing more and more distant from it. I couldn't get into it, despite all the really strong elements, because like you said, Kara's was strong, Charlie was strong, the Kim character was strong, and the Doctor was great. He was, this is my Doctor.
Yeah.
This is so 8th Doctor of him to run around and do things and buy people ice cream and, And I love the joke, the pun on the, what's the most lethal thing in the bakery? Attila the bun. And he cackles and goes, well, it's funny if you know him.
Yes, you had to know him.
So he still gets to name drop. And just that, I don't know, there's so much to like there.
The joke on the stick of the ice cream, that's right. That was.
I actually had a little trouble getting into it because for some reason, I think it's just the audio file I have. It just sounded very different. It sounded distant in a way, like hollow. You guys didn't have that?
I didn't have that.
And I had a couple of instances where they would jump mid dialogue and skip.
I had come to think of it, I'd had pops in mine where it would go and you could hear it.
See,
it never skipped, but you could definitely hear it drop out.
It was mid word and boop, off to a musical interlude and gone. I think one was on purpose. I don't think the rest were.
I didn't have that problem with my phone.
Interesting.
But despite that, I really enjoyed the story.
Yeah, I did too. This was both of these stories were very solid, strong stories. Both enjoyable. It's always nice to listen to two, especially when we're doing 2 audios back to back, to have 2 very enjoyable stories together, because there'll be sometimes, especially when we were doing the Divergent Universe, where you'd have one that was really good and then one that was painful, or one that was really bad and one that was good. And so it's nice to have some consistency, especially with these characters that I've grown to love. And I'm finally starting to warm up to Chris.
I'm really liking Chris. I loved how he solved the mystery of the prison.
Feed on me.
Take this. That's him taking those ideas or those different people in his mind and using it to his advantage. So perfect of a character move.
It becomes a defense mechanism.
Yeah,
for him, and I like
so great.
Or an offensive mechanism.
Oh yeah, let's go and attack. Yeah,
it excites me honestly to no end that you guys really liked this one. Just from the standpoint that because for all of the reasons that you did like it, that's what Eddie Robson is strongest at in his other stuff.
This story made me excited
the
to
tone,
hear
the
more
slightly
now
goofy, the weird nature. Those are the things that he takes this little nugget of an idea and then spins it on its head, and you're going to be like, oh yeah.
How much of that, Sean, too, is that those stories are only an hour, and this particular one was 2. So
that might be.
Is he better in smaller?
That might be. I mean,
almost in this one, maybe feeling like he had to fill.
Well, they did
2
spend
hours
so much of that first episode kind of doing nothing,
Yeah,
where they could have gotten to business much quicker.
Yeah. So that might be to his benefit that they're shorter stories.
He also wrote one of the Unbounds.
I'm excited to read or to listen to those. Those are
that's going to be a fun time when we get into those.
David Warner.
Some of them, not all of them.
Yeah, no, there's different people, but
the one he wrote was David Warner and Davros.
Any excuse to listen to David Warner
as the Doctor.
Yeah.
How cool can this get?
And a brigadier.
Yeah, we're a long way from there, guys.
But it's still Nicholas Courtney.
All right. Well, is there anything else on this one you guys want to touch on?
I don't think so.
Let's move on to what's next on the schedule.
Well, next on the schedule, we give you a bit of an early bird special with the early part of the show. For Friday Night Who, we're finishing up Enemy of the World, parts 4 through 6. And then next week, episode 182, we are talking about it. We're going to discuss Enemy of the World. We're going to discuss Patrick Troughton and how awesome he was and how much we all enjoyed the story. And because we did, unless it falls apart in the last 3 episodes, which I don't, because I still haven't watched it. I mean, I watched the 3 parts of Friday Night. That was still my first time. I'd seen it. Right? I'd booted up episode 1, like, I don't know, 10 times since I bought the iTunes file. On your recommendation, Mr. Soapbox. But I still haven't actually been able to sit down and...
I still stand behind that.
...digest it. And so it was just like I watched it and I loved it and I was so excited and then never got around to finishing it off or having the time for it because of school or whatnot. And so sitting down watching it was like, oh, yay. I was a little hairy going into Friday Night Who because only having the iTunes copy and realizing that, well, we're either gathering around the laptop or because I can't cast it to my Chromecast because iTunes and Chromecast are like, no.
There's a way to get around that.
I looked up it's like, you have to do this, this, and this, and turn off this permission and strip this over here. And I was like, no,
there's an easier way to do that. Sean, I'll tell you after the show.
But I figured it out, so we got it to work.
Oh, good.
We watched it on Daily Motion, and there were no commercials.
There were no commercials on it.
Not on the first 3 parts. There weren't.
Oh, nice.
Wow. So that's how we watched it.
It's kind of ironic, also, that Toby and Oak's Who's Round recently released a new episode.
Talking about this story?
Patrick Troughton's son, who was in Enemy of the World.
Yeah. He's got a small part.
Yeah. It was his first Who role. So that's kind of nice. I watched this, and then I went off and listened to that.
There were so many people that, I thought I recognized, and then as Friday Night Who was progressing, I was like, oh, that is the so-and-so from this. Like the what's his name? I don't know. He's Warren because he's in...
I know who you're talking about.
The old guy, the security chief, turned out to be the lighthouse keeper from Horror. Because I knew as soon as he spoke, I was like, oh, I know you. And then the other guy's the Castellan, and, I was like, I know you. And, there were so many people that got reused. It was exciting to see him in it. So, anyway.
It's too exciting.
It's too exciting.
It is exciting.
So we'll be doing that and finishing up Enemy of the World. And then the following week, we are not going to have a Friday Night Who. Because we will be doing a special Saturday edition Friday Night Who. This will be Saturday Day Who. Saturday Who. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't do that because it's too weird to say. We'll be at British
Fest.
Fest.
Saturday Day Who.
Saturday Day Who. Saturday Matinee Who. There we go.
There you go. I like that. Saturday Matinee.
We'll be having
takes up a lot more words.
Yeah,
letters,
so the hashtag will be huge on it. But Saturday Matinee Who, because we will all be at British Fest in Omaha. Once again, if you're in the area, if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, or in the area of Omaha, Nebraska, come out and see us because we will be there and we would love to meet you and talk with you. And we're still kind of nailing. In fact, we need to off mic do what exactly we're doing. But we'll be doing Day of the Doctor that weekend. So yay, 50th anniversary stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'll have the rest of the schedule posted up. But you might want to start watching some Sarah Jane. Just going to throw that out there for something we got planned.
That's a truncated season, though, too.
Yeah, season 5. And that's that.
All right.
How did I get ink all over me?
I don't know. It's on your shirt, too.
From a pen.
Huh.
Or a squid. If that's going to do it for this week, until next week.
I was arm wrestling a squid.
I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Has this been here all show? Or
most of it, yeah.
Really? You guys didn't say anything?
I thought you would. I'm sorry.
I figured you'd need to.
I didn't know what it was either.
Sean.
Heaven forbid I show up one night with my hair on fire.
Who cares?
Good night, everybody.
Peace.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.